question is Surah Taha, Surah 20, verse 55 says, "From the earth did we create you, and in it shall we return you, and from it shall we bring you out once again." Surah Hajj, Surah 22, verse 60 says, "It is He who gave you life will cause you to die, and will again give you life. Truly man is the most ungrateful creature." Do you think it all refers to reincarnation, that we will be made alive again?
No. No. Reincarnation is the ill concept of Hinduism. The Ismaili belief is according to the Quran. And what is that? We are from Allah and we will return back to Allah. We are from Allah and we will return back to Allah. Isn't that our belief? If that's so, this tells us clearly that all the souls come from the ocean of the souls of the particle from the Imam Zaman, as he encompasses everything. He is the one we come from, and then we shall return back to him. Now this is a cycle, that we come from Imam and we return back to him. If for a second we believe that we are coming from Imam like a cloud and the rain, completely disconnected, that is not our concept of Islam. That is not our concept of Ismaili Tariqah. Our concept of Ismaili Tariqah is like a sun and sun ray. The sun ray comes from the sun and then returns back to the sun. Imam is the example of the sun, and we are the sun ray of the nur of the Imam, from the soul of the Imam, and at the end we will return back to him. Have you ever seen any sun ray left out on the earth? No. Every morning we come, every evening we return. Every day humans are born, and every day human dies and go back to his origin. And that is the Nur Ilahi, Imam Zaman. Please remove the ill concept of reincarnation from your heart, because it will bring nothing but hopelessness. The reincarnation brings nothing but the ill concepts, and it will weaken your Iman, because you will forget the mercy of the Imam. In reincarnation, there is no enrollment of the mercy of the Imam. You do good, you move forward. You do bad, you are left like garbage on the street. That is not our tariqah. Our tariqah is of the hope, of the rahmat, and of the true Imam, from whom we are from and from whom we shall return back to. Please be careful with this concept.
So from what I understand, the return part of, when Allah says in the Quran about this concept of we'll bring you back, this is for the day of resurrection, right? The day of judgment. Is that what?
The day you die is the day of your judgment.
No problem, sir. Now there's a couple more questions. One is the reference of Ali Awal, Ali Akhir, Ali Zahir, Ali Batin, as mentioned earlier by AZIZ. According to the gist of the Quran, in the Quran-e-Sharif book, it states Ali is one of the names of Allah, Al-Ali, and this attributes to the statement refers to Allah. Is that correct?
Sure. Yes.
There's a question from iPad. Let me unmute. Do you want to unmute? There you go.
Yani Madad bhai.
Ya Ali Madad.
I have a question on 1771.
Ji.
Where it says every people is Imam. Now, the question being is, which Imam? Because really, in the end, there is only one Nur of Imam as such. So I would have thought that that statement would have been every people with the Imam, rather than their Imam. So is there something else behind that?
No, actually you are absolutely right. Remember, because Allah wants to draw our attention that there is an Imam in every time and age, and you will be called upon with your Imam. Just to make it easier for our mind to comprehend, our brain to digest, that there is an Imam and we will be called upon with the Imam. That's what it means. The attention is drawn that there is always an Imam with all the people in all the time. That is the concept. Thank you. That's a good question. Thank you.
I have a second question.
Ji.
Our deeds, are they stored on our soul or in the Imam?
Both.
Okay.
Both. Let me explain how. If you remember the principle of Wakulle Shain Sanafi Imam Mubin, then where are we? We are in Imam. So your deeds are on your soul and within the Imam, because everything is encompassed in Imam. So the way to understand our tariqah is to remember the principles. And you notice throughout this 2-page document and the 3-page document or 4-page document last week, only thing you saw was the principles. If you remember those principles, and if you remember this principle now of Wakulla Sha'in, look at how easy your answer was. Yes and yes. If it's on you, yes. If it's an Imam, yes. Because he encompasses everything. That includes you and your deeds. Subhanallah. Thank you. That was a good question. Thank you.
There's one question. Khalil has put his hand up, but before I get Khalil to unmute, there's a question about cremation. So how come Ismailis use burial and not cremation? Do you have any? It's a small question, but if you can give us a quick answer on that one.
This has to be a quick answer. Remember, the burial system is a tradition, not a part of the rites and ritual. In one of the Imam Aka Sultan Muhammad Shah, may our soul be sacrificed to the Imam, Farman says, it is the soul which matters, not the body. So even after you die, if they bury you, they burn you, or they throw you out, it does not matter. This 2 lines of Farman tells a lot. Because it is not the soul that you are burying, it's just a body. It's just a body. And because we are following an Islamic tradition, then we are following Islamic tradition. And that is the tradition. Because otherwise, according to Imam's Farman, it really doesn't matter. because was the soul which is eternal and the original, which returned back to his creator, goes back into the ocean of the Nur in the Imam-e-Zaman. Thank you for asking.
Khalil, if you want to unmute, please.
Yes, hi, ALWAAZ. Aziz, very nice to see you. Thank you for speaking on this topic, because I think you're right that most of what I've heard all week has just been about Imam Ali's physical life and sort of physical activities, which is fine, but it's very important to provide the eternal perspective on Ali. So thank you for doing that with us today. I just wanted to comment on the question in the chat about reincarnation. Of course, you're absolutely right. The reincarnation, we have to realize that reincarnation, it comes from Hinduism, and some people think that it's not even part of original Hinduism, that it was brought rather late, from elsewhere. But I think people ask this question because the Ginans, they seem to just mention reincarnation almost in passing, like as a sort of threat. So we have to sort of, when we read reincarnation in the Ginans, we have to keep in mind that there is no Ginan that gives you a detailed explanation of how reincarnation works. Like, no Ginan actually explains how it is. Rather, the Ginans refer to reincarnation as just a, quote, bad outcome if you don't recognize the Imam. So reincarnation in the Ginans is a threat. It's not a reality. It's not a promise. It's just a threat. It's a warning. And the people at that time, the first people who heard the Ismaili Ginans, they just believed in reincarnation. They believe, all the Hindus believe that we're all stuck in this, call it samsara. So all the Hindus believe that you're stuck in an eternal cycle of reincarnation. And for Hinduism, the goal is to escape it. So the peers who wrote the Ginans, if they start talking about monoreality and Nurani Didar right away, nobody will understand. So they tried to give the message of what we're aiming for, but they put that message in the terms and ideas that the Indian people could understand. So that's why they took, like, many Ginans talk about samsara, and they say if you want to escape samsara, then attain marifa of the Imam, follow the farmans. So we should not take it literally when we read reincarnation in the Ginans. And there's one Ginan that talks about what happens after death. And it talks about many stations that the soul goes through after death, and that one Ginan never talks about reincarnation. So the only detailed explanation in the Ginans about afterlife, it has nothing about reincarnation, because actually we don't really have this concept. So you're absolutely right on that. And in that verse it's in the chat, it says, from the earth we created you, and then we will return you into it. And this sort of, so sometimes when the Quran mentions earth, sometimes it's not talking about the physical earth. Sometimes it's talking about the universal soul. Right? The universal soul is the spiritual earth. So many times in the Quran says we created you from earth. It also is talking about in a spiritual sense. You have come from the universal soul, and then it says we'll return you to the earth. So we will return to the universal soul. And the concept that we have in our tariqah generally, you could call it re-manifestation, but not reincarnation, right? There's this idea that, the Nur of Imamad can reflect in all these different souls, including our souls, and even like a great soul that has become perfect and united with the Nur. In some way, that soul can re-manifest in the world to do specific tasks. But it's not really the same thing as reincarnation, because that re-manifestation is not a trapping of the soul, like the way the Hindus understand it. So I just wanted to add that. And there was one more comment. Somebody's talked about why does it mention many imams in the Quran? Because, the word imam is plural in the Quran. So this is where we have to sort of try to demarcate things. So there's one Nur of Imamah. That's what we all been taught by the Imam. There's one Nur. But, in the dua, we give the names of all the Imams. right? We mentioned in the dua that we recite, we have the word aima several times, plural. So at some level, there are many imams. It's not just an allegory. So the way to think about this is that there's one nur of imamat, but every imam individually is a pure mirror for the nur of imamat. Because without the individual imam, we would not be able to perceive the nur of imamat. We would have no contact with it. So the imam as an individual being, he is a mirror. He is a pure mirror. And there have been, in that sense, there have been multiple imams, the multiple mirrors for the nur of imamat. So on the day of judgment, the idea is that no one will be able to actually, very few people will have a direct vision of the nur of imamat on the day of judgment. Most people will see the nur of imamat in the mirror of the imam of that time, the imam of their time. And that's why even some Ismailis who've died for 2 minutes, like in our time, some Ismailis, they die for 2 minutes and then they come back. They were revived, heart attack, cardiac arrest. Many of them have said that when they died, they saw Hazar Imam with them. Like they saw the imam of their time. Now it's just other people, there are other people who have died, they're not in our community, they're non-Ismaili. And then they say that when they saw, they didn't see a person, but they saw like a blob of light, a beam of light, but they didn't recognize who it was. So the Nur of Imamat can take many forms, and those forms, in our reality, those forms are still real. So there's no contradiction to talk about many imams, because our dua we say there's many imams, pure imams, al-aimat al-atahar, right? And then we talk about like Aimat al-Mutahhareen, for example. So that's plural. And then we recite all the names of the imams. So if all these imams are illusions, why do we say all their names? So they must be real to some degree. At a lower level, they must be real imams. So we should still think about them as being real. They're all reflections of the same nur. So thank you. I just wanted to add that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Khalil. I think if we take 2 more questions.
Sure.
One is from Suleiman. Do you want to unmute, Suleiman? Okay. Suleiman has said, as Raymond Moody mentions in his book and his documentary, that every soul that left the body or had a near-death experience saw a light. That they mentioned that the light was very loving, warm, and affectionate and non-judgmental. They all experienced their life review, where they had a panoramic view of their life from start to finish, and they were showed lessons in their lives. It is a spiritual world that all souls experience, that we are going to be experiencing after death. So is this something that you have heard of, that the souls, people who have gone in and out of this world, as they say, they might feel this experience? I know it's hard to say, but I mean, someone has asked the question.
Yeah, I don't see much of question here. I think it's more of a comment what this person has read. But let me ask a question from him. And I believe that's what he wants to ask. When we read books that talks about near-death experiences, and we only read those experiences which are positive experiences. Let's say in this world there are only 2 kind of people. There are many kind, first of all. But let's say, just for the sake of learning, there are 2 kind of people. Those who will merge into the light for a second or 2, or after they die, and then there will be others who will not experience the light as the other half has experienced the light. That tells us that there are 2 paths return to Allah, to the Imam. There are 2 different paths. Which path have we taken? It is not about them and others, It is about us and I. When I die, when we will die, what and where we will be. Are we going to be in the light with the Imam instantly, or are we going to take a long way back to the Imam of the time? And if you wanted to listen in the detail, I will strongly recommend to listen to the 2 or 3 lectures which was delivered on this very same channel on the journey of the soul and how we go from here back to the Asal in the Imam. It is entirely upon your deeds and your action. You could get there taking the elevator from the earth to the Imam, or you can take a long way of a 50,000 year steps. A journey of 50,000 years. That is entirely up to you. If you have chosen to take a long journey, and I hope and I pray none of us will take that long journey. But if we have, then it would not be light on the day 1. It would be light eventually, but not on the day 1. We wanted to make sure that we are on the right path and we get there and get to the light instantly after we leave this world. So when we are reading the books, we are only reading the half picture. We are not looking at the whole picture. I do encourage once again, listen to those lectures, the journey of the soul, and then you decide how and where we will be. G.
Thank you. This is the last question. I know some people are putting in questions in the group chat. I will pass them to Aziz sir. The only issue is some of them are not relating to the subject we've talked about today. But I will ask this last question. And sorry, let me just get a question again. So, Imam asked us, Prophet Muhammad, Imam Muqim, Mustawada, Mustaqar, and Qaim is Maulana Hazim Imam, our present Imam. Please ask Aziz to explain.
I'm not sure of the question. I heard Imam Muqim, Imam Mustaqar, and Imam Qaim, but I'm not sure what is the question. Do you want to know what are the meaning of these different Imams? If that is the question?
Yeah, I think they just asked you to explain.
Okay. So there are, according to our Dais and Hujjatan, there are 5 different functions of the Noor-e Imamat. Number 1 is Imam Muqim. Second is Imam Asas. Third is Imam Mustawda. Fourth is Imam Mustaqar. And fifth is Imam Qaim. Each one of those functions are with those Imams who perform those functions. For example, Imam Muqim is called that Imam which gives the Isme Azam to upcoming Natik of the new cycle. Imam Asas is that Imam which is the foundational Imam after the Natik of the new cycle. Imam Mustawda is the entrusted Imam which is trusted with the Noor of the Imamat but does not declare his Imamat. The Imam Mustaqar is the Nuran ala Noor, the Imam from the progeny of the Imam from the Ibrahim to Imran to Ali to Shah Karim. And Imam Qaim is the Imam of the time of Qiyamah. And when that time will come, the Imam of the time of Qiyamah will be called Imam Qaim. If that was your question, then this answers your question.
Thank you, Aziz. I will share the questions with you. The problem is there's quite a few different questions. If anybody else wants to say something, then I will unmute everybody if there is any quick questions. If not, then it's nearly 8:30, and I know a few people are joining other Zoom calls. And also Sunday, tomorrow is the 1st of March. We've been in lockdown for nearly 1 year complete. And thanks to the lockdown, we've learned a lot from Aziz sir. So thank you very much for joining us weekly.
Thank you.
And sharing your knowledge.
It's Mullah's knowledge, not mine. It's all Mullah's. Nothing is mine. I'm just Garib and poor.
It's very deep. The knowledge is very deep. And I would urge everybody, if you, I know Khalil, Dr. Khalil Andani, he done a good talk this week from IIS. I would urge everybody to, if you want this knowledge and understanding, do listen to people like Aziz Uncle, people like Khalil. There is a lot of material on the soul and the universal soul, even in Nasir Khusru's work. So I would urge people to look at the books that Aziz Uncle has kindly posted for us, because I think knowledge comes from 1 hour from someone like Aziz sir. But if you don't read and you don't understand, then some of the knowledge that if you don't do your homework, then it's no good being in a class. Is that correct, Aziz sir? If people are not partaking in the extra work or wanting that knowledge from the literature we have, then sometimes these sessions, they become wasted because you don't take anything extra away from the knowledge that is available. So please, do try and read on the subject as well.
Personal search is required, and it is upon us with the Imam's Farman. Personal search is must.
Thank you once again, everyone. And inshallah, we will see Aziz. I keep on saying uncle, but some people want me to call him Aziz sir. Hopefully next week, inshallah, and I will pass on any questions. There is also a link that I will put in the group of other who joins us in the morning and tomorrow evening, and some of you next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Yali Madad. Yali Madad.